Okay.
So I start the recording. I will make this available on YouTube afterwards, unless
Right on.
someone says they don't want to. I can also
Right.
take it down at any point. So we don't have an agenda today. How are you all doing?
Well.
Good to hear. Is there anything on anyone's mind that they would like to discuss today? I can report.
Actually, OSCON is coming up pretty soon. It looks like I just got approval to attend. So it'd be interesting to find out who all's going to that.
So to OSCON, as far as I know, we have a few people from Bitergia going, but we don't have a concerted effort from CHAOSS to be represented there.
Yeah.
We will be at the open source, no, what's it called? The Community Leadership
Summit, yeah.
that Jonah Bacon organizes. So we have several people going to that conference and presenting there. And I think I post on the website everything that we had there. Let me check.
It's all it does is start the community. Yeah.
So on our website under community, I have one talk, the establishing metrics that matter for diversity and inclusion. But I thought we had more. Maybe I'm not up to date on all the talks that we have there. Sean, are you going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm going to be there. I'm excited about it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, you know, as much as I liked having it in Austin the last 2 years, they seem to do a much better job with it in Portland. Because just looking at the schedule for OSCON and everything is a lot more interesting than it's been the last couple of years.
That sounds good.
That's exciting. I've never been to OSCON. I could have extended my trip, I suppose, to stay there, but there's only so much travel in my budget and time.
So you're just coming for the Community Leadership Summit?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's worth it to go to just that because it's another really great event.
Well, I think so. I mean, it really where the growth, maturity, and decline group needs engagement is with the community managers. So I just think that's going to be a great place to make those connections.
Yeah.
So from the diversity and inclusion work group, we had a good meeting last week on just going through the metrics that we had identified and thinking about how we can provide a more specific product. So how do we operationalize the metrics? And the approach we had in the metrics committee so far is to have detail pages that specify how is the metric defined, how is it calculated, how can it be implemented in code. And we followed a similar process in the diversity and inclusion work group, where we call them resource pages. This is based on another diversity effort, NCWIT, whatever that was. NCWIT. The National Center for Women and Information Technology. And they have resource pages on how to assess metrics. And the structure is very similar. We have at the top, here, let me pull up the page so you see what I'm talking about. And I bring this up just so we can align what we're doing across CHAOSS. Pull requests. Sorry, there's gigantic pull request where I'm looking for this right now. There, I have it. So when you click on this link, it's the resource page or the detail page for documentation. And this lives within understanding project places. And so at the top we have a description. First we have the question that we had in the table. Then we have the description of why do we even care about documentation? What benefits does it have looking at this metric? And then we have sample objectives for a community to look at, okay, why do I want to assess documentation? What can be positive outcomes for me if I know how well we are doing with regards to documentation?
Right.
And then we have sample strategies. Those are high level. What are options for assessing how well are we doing with providing a diverse and inclusive environment in our documentation? And then the chapter 4, sample success metrics, is where we detail out those strategies and I'm being called. So yeah, that's the idea. And then at the bottom we have resources to link to anything that's related to this metric. Do you have any thoughts or feedback on this approach?
I mean, when I had looked at the only, I've been giving a lot of thought to the diversity and inclusion, the way that repository is organized, and if there is any need or interest in distinguishing between metrics that can be measured using trace data versus metrics that clearly cannot be measured using trace data within that working group. Because I think I would want to organize that or those categories of metrics differently. And I'm curious what the sentiment or the sense of that group is with regards to what's the word I'm looking for? Whether or not those are actually two categories of things that exist. Does that make sense?
Yes, So based on what I've been hearing and what we've discussed so far, the short answer is I don't think that distinction makes sense for grouping metrics. The sense that we have is the metrics that we are interested in are more at a higher level, and we can have both metadata, trace data level metrics that can help us, as well as qualitative.
Right.
And so instead of grouping the metrics by the approach of data collection, we see both ways within each metric, and so we distinguish between them within each of the metrics. And that's what you see here in 4, where we have qualitative and quantitative approaches.
I see. So I think I understand the sentiment of the group, and I'm thinking only from a pragmatics of implementation perspective.
Yep.
I think for the developers that we have who are interested in participating in and advancing the provision of metrics, if there would be some kind of tag or flag that the group could provide where they think a metric could possibly be done without like a survey. For example, there are algorithms that are imperfect but possibly useful for discerning gender. There are algorithms that are imperfect but possibly useful for inferring international backgrounds. And those are components of what one might consider diversity and inclusion, and ways of profiling, I suppose, a contributor base or contrasting contributor bases on different projects. And I know that there may be some sensitivities around wanting to do that or not wanting to do that. And if the sentiment is, hey, let's not do that, that's just a little, because it's imperfect, we risk, there's lots more risk associated with that than advantage, then that's okay. Do you understand what I'm asking?
What I'm understanding you saying is that
Taking the
for
perspective of
someone
nerds.
to try to help the diversity and inclusion workgroup implement metrics into software, it would be good to provide help identifying where are these metrics that need to be implemented.
Right. So like if I look at, I think all the ones that I see, carefully outlined right now are not some of the early activity metrics that we defined, but there are more really aims for things like conferences and participation, things that would really be addressed through survey data. And so that's okay. And I would, like, if I look through the list right now, I don't see any that I could implement using repository analysis or mailing list analysis of any kind. And that's just fine. I am a sort of I'm an interested member, but not a leading member of that group. And so I don't want my nerdness or the tendency I have maybe to lean towards a software implementation to direct that group where to go. Yeah. But I thought I'd ask the question.
I really appreciate that because it's something that we have to keep an eye on. So if we do come across something that through trace data and repo analysis can be informed, then we have to make sure that that becomes visible to you and other implementers.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think we're there quite yet, but it's good to keep an eye out for it. So thank you for the feedback. That was very good.
Yeah, it's a question, but yeah.
Yeah, so the next steps are to create more of these resource pages, and then as we are doing those, that's where I expect to identify when we come across metrics that can be implemented in software.
Excellent. Well, you're going to be in Portland, Georg, or no?
I will not be, no.
Okay. Well, I'll look forward to chatting with people there.
It looked like with the Community Leadership Summit, they had scheduled a lot of actual talks this year, right? Like in the past, it's always been like 3 or 4 talks in the morning, and then it's all unconference stuff from then on.
I think Sunday is pretty heavily unconference, if I'm reading it correctly. Although there are some prepared present. I haven't been there before, so I have nothing to compare it to. I'd say it's a mix of conference and unconference.
Yeah.
At least it looks that way to the schedule. I don't know how they'll run it. Maybe the talks will be more.
Yeah, the schedule was a little hard to read how we had it set up. But I mean, in the past they did like morning keynotes each day, and then the rest of the sessions were all picked from like people just coming up with sessions. But I don't know. It'd probably be cool to have some actual talks.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting collection of talks.
George, I have a question. Have we started implementing the metrics?
For growth, maturity, and decline, or for
Sorry?
I guess what was I trying to say? Are you talking about diversity and inclusion, or are you talking about different?
Diversity and inclusion.
So in diversity and inclusion, we are not at a place to implement any metrics yet. We are still defining what the metrics are we are interested in. So the effort right now within the diversity and inclusion work group is on the resource pages. Did you join after I shared the link? Maybe you joined after I shared the link.
I think you did. Yeah,
share the link again. This is part of a pull request we have right now from our last conversation, a resource page where we outline what are the metrics, why do we care about the metrics, how can we measure and assess these metrics. And the understanding of what a metric is here is a little bit different than what we've been talking about before, because it's more high level. And it's not necessarily something you can implement in software. So the short answer, Armstrong, is no, we're currently not implementing any diversity and inclusion metrics. And I invite you next week to join our call, because the diversity and inclusion workgroup will meet again next week to advance.
What is the time?
It's the same time as our Tuesday meeting. Let me go to the website. I have it on the website, and it's on a different day though.
I just have some confusion with the dates, because I don't know why the Central Time and Institute Time I'm having conflict, like 1 hour delay.
Different calendars have screwed me up with time zones before. I always end up putting the meeting on my making sure the meeting's on my calendar and my time zone.
Okay.
Yep. So we meet again on the 4th, so Wednesday at the same time as this call.
Okay.
And you can always go to the CHAOSS website, and under participate, I will update the meeting times and days.
Did you say July 4th?
Oh, maybe we should.
That's the National Day of the U.S.
You're not much of an American, are you there, Georg?
No, I'm not.
You don't have a pickup truck, do you?
Okay. I assume you're not meeting on the 4th. You're right.
I'm gonna be in Iceland, so I'm looking forward to the 4th of July celebration there. I know it's a global holiday, and the whole world celebrates America. So
just bring some fireworks with you and watch them off somewhere.
sure, I'll just bring them in my carry-on luggage. I'm sure that won't be a problem.
Yeah, I'm sure there's enough fireworks going in the air that you can see it on the horizon.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Okay, I'll send it out an email, figure out when we meet for the diversity and inclusion work group. So just watch the mailing list. And then I saw we had some really good conversation on the growth, maturity, and decline metric.
We did. I'm looking forward to our meeting on Thursday this week.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm skimming the emails, and one of the things that came up recently was the distinguishment between point-in-time metrics and delta metrics.
Yeah, there's a very big meta discussion that's happening on that list right now, and I think it's going to span not only the growth, maturity, and decline metrics, but really all metrics brought about through trace data. And I think the understanding of it will be really important. And the language that we choose to articulate essentially what is, if I go through a Git repository, I have all things for all time. and I can say something about that. And anytime that I want to really understand a metric in a way that's helpful for me as a community manager or other person managing a project, I need to look at what's happening in some window of time, which we were calling a filter, and then what are the deltas over a window of time, over several windows of time that I'm calling a filter, and then what are the trajectories that I'm also calling some kind of a filter. So I think getting super clear about what these things are is going to take some discussion, some dialogue, and time. So as we go through that discussion this week, which hopefully we'll get some more community managers involved with, then I think that we'll have. I think that discussion is going to be really important for all metrics, because if we don't make those kinds of distinctions, then it gets difficult to say these are a metric. This is a metric that I can intelligently compare across multiple different projects. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So maybe there's more of an advertisement for the Thursday meeting, because
Yeah.
that's really interesting. And then after Thursday, if you want to...
Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
If you want to bring the results or take the discussion forward to the big meeting, we have the big monthly meeting next week.
Yeah, I'm hoping, one of two things will happen. We'll have a bunch of, right now the discussion on the mailing list has been pretty heavily tilted towards computer sciencey people. And that's concern that I have, because I think that the decisions about what we call these things and how we use them need to be influenced more by non-computer sciencey people. So I look at myself as being at a deficit, and a lot of the people in that group, maybe Jesus is the most bimodal of us, because essentially with Grimoire Lab, he's managed a community as well as built metrics for it. And I think that it's Jesus who's come up with a lot of these nuanced ideas, and then I've had slightly different perspectives or words for what are very similar things. And then I think Daniel German and others have brought more of a computer sciencey objective perspective back to it. And so I think having like a singular or a stronger community manager presence in that call will be helpful. Otherwise, I suspect what we'll bring to the monthly meeting, which we probably need to move, by the way, because the monthly meeting falls on July 4th as well. We probably need to move that to July 11th.
It's July 3rd. Tuesday is July 3rd next week.
Okay.
Do we still need to move it?
It depends how American-centric you want to be in your decision-making. I know a lot of Americans will not be available.
I mean, for that entire week.
Yeah.
Especially in the tech world, nothing gets done.
Yeah, it's a pretty much enough, because especially since the 4th of July is on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
People are bailing for the first half of the week, the second half of the week, or all of the week. And if they're bailing for the second half of the week, you can count on them being pretty checked out Tuesday, if not Monday. They might do a sort of a maintenance service of their email lists to look busy on Monday, and then disappear for the rest of the week. That'd be the typical pattern in the US when the 4th of July is on a Wednesday, is you can just write that whole week off.
Yeah, we can.
I mean, ask Matt, and unfortunately, I bring a particularly American perspective, and maybe the smart thing would be to make it earlier in the day, make it easier for our European collaborators to participate in the call and have it.
Sorry, I just came late. Sorry for not joining earlier.
We were just talking about you.
Talking about you and saying nice things.
Hi.
I was saying that you're really the only person that's participating in the growth, maturity, and decline discussions that has a community manager perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, we need to draw more of that in.
Talking about the meeting next week. So I miss that most of the people came in are Americans. So to be practical,
yeah,
we should switch just for 1 week. doesn't matter. I'm sure that if we need to do some other time, we're going to do that.
We moved it out of the 4th of July week last year whenever, and I think it actually fell on a Tuesday last year, so that was a little bit more straightforward. But I think, yeah, if people don't mind, it would be good to move the monthly call to the 11th and just not even have a call at all next week. Just give everybody the week off. That's
fine with me. We can keep the time. So if somebody wants to join, we can keep the time, but not making it the monthly call, which is, expected to be joined by some more people. So I agree with that. So.
Okay, I'll send out an email.
Then about the discussions, and my impression is that we have come a bit off topic, because we have started to talk about algebras for metrics, if you saw. So it started as something for community managers or something like that, but has become something very, very technical. So
yeah, I agree. That is a concern.
Yeah, since we are going to talk on Thursday, I suppose, so maybe we can discuss how to reconduct the discussion. Because for me it's very interesting, but I think it's only Danielle and me. And we should be trying to include people with a practical interest in the metrics, not on how the metrics are calculated.
Super important. Like, I'm afraid to make any decisions about the metrics, even based on the discussions that we've had without engaging community managers. I'm afraid. My concern, afraid is probably too strong, but my concern is that we end up making a bunch of decisions as computer sciencey people that do not get consumed well by community managers.
Yeah. So that's why I think that as we agreed some meetings ago, we should maybe come back to the idea of discussing the English description of the metrics. Mm-hmm. Don't talk that much about how they are calculated. I mean, I can keep on talking with Danielle because it doesn't harm, but try to reconduct.
Well, it's translating what Daniel's saying into plain English, I think.
Yeah, right. Something like that. That's convenient too. But maybe we could focus on some of the specific metrics, because, for instance, during the last few weeks, we have been working with these metrics about delays and how long does it take until the first reaction, until the ticket is closed. And those are concepts that are, I mean, the general idea is easy to understand. How do you calculate that, and the difference is if this is a time series or not, and stuff like that. Well, that's not that important for talking about the meaning of the metrics. So maybe we should be focusing on saying, let's talk this week about this and these metrics, to which extent you find it's important, to which extent you find it is useful, can you provide any use case where it's useful, something like that. What do you think?
Yeah. I think focusing on the English language description is a really smart idea and a way to engage community managers, and maybe we can.
I mean, I have the intention of staying working on the, let's say, how do you compute part of the metric. So I'm still going to work on how to do that, how to define it precisely, and so on, because I feel that's needed. But for engaging other people in the community, in the CHAOSS community, I think that we need to also focus on the English description and the value that the metric is providing in them, because that's the reason for the metric. It's not something abstract.
Exactly.
Those meetings are on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central Time.
That's right. Every other Thursday, right? And so this Thursday we have a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll try to make it to that meeting.
Oh, that would be great. So
that would be really great.
Same time, same channel.
So I haven't actually been following much of what's happening with the working groups. So I'm guessing the intention is that they're all going to work on these individual areas and then merge that into like the CHAOSS metrics.
Ultimately, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Cool.
Exactly. We have the idea of trying to release, let's say, a stable version of the growth, maturity, decline metrics by the OSCON, so in 2 months from now. And the idea would be to discuss on two sides. One side would be on the value of the metrics, on use cases, and why people think they are interesting, and so on. and the other one would be on precise description of the metrics, so that when you
Cool.
have a tool, you can now, whether this tool is comparable to this other one or stuff like that. Something like a kind of a standard, a gold standard of how the metric is computed or something like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and actually, going back to the community manager thing, my team is trying to hire one right now, and in the next few months, it's actually something that this person and I are going to be working with a lot, is figuring out how to use this metric stuff for Oath. So it's definitely something that's been on my radar a lot lately.
But that's quite interesting, because what we are looking is for people really willing to use the metrics in the field, so that they really can get some value of using the metrics, so that they use them for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so I gathered from that we'll have a very interesting conversation on Thursday. And then depending on how that goes, we might continue that on the monthly call with a broader audience.
Yeah, I think no matter what, we'll include there'll probably be a discussion on the monthly call. And I think, as I was saying, I think before Jesus got online, that the nature of that discussion will probably pivot on the degree of engagement we do or don't get from community managers in the call this Thursday. And because I think if we get some good engagement, then the conversations about how we're discussing these issues like filtering and how we express metrics resolution over time, and doing so in plain English, as you mentioned, Jesus. But I think if we don't get a lot of community manager discussion, then maybe the discussion on the monthly call will pivot towards, what can we do? And I know you and I are each trying to engage community managers through contacting them in a retail manner. It's kind of a tough time of year to do that. So we might just want to talk about our strategy for increasing maybe awareness that CHAOSS has moved from this metrics and software duality to working groups that integrate those. And I think maybe the risk for growth, maturity, and decline is the mailing list has become, right now it's just, the computer sciencey people are talking more about it because there are some nuanced technical questions we have about how to do the calculations, and that, as Jesus mentioned, pivots away from plain English and disengages non-computer sciencey people.
Well, that's why what you need, I think, my impression is we still need this kind of discussions, but we also need the other ones.
Right.
People can decide in which of those they can engage. One thing to engage.
Agreed. Yeah. I wouldn't say that we don't need the computer sciencey discussions.
But basically what we need is to have a balance. And right now we have not that many discussions on the value and that kind of stuff.
Perfect. Any updates on the CHAOSScon organization?
I'm working on getting non-EduRoam wireless access. They do have a guest network, but I'll probably bring a router that I plug into the wall as a backup. So I do this for a couple other conferences that I coordinate things for. It's always good. It's always good to have a plan B.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. On the other hand, if we have both options, they have EduRoam because it seems that the infrastructure is having EduRoam. For those of us who already have, we don't need to use your routers, which means that the router is not going to be that busy, so that the connection is going to be better. So.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So Wi-Fi taken care of. Any other things that we need to do or do next?
I think we were discussing on needs for sponsorship, and there was some proposal. I remember the thread. I didn't answer to it, my fault. But there was some people budgeting staff that could be sponsored. Maybe we can start from there and try to have a kind of a budget and just find out whether somebody is going to foot the bill.
So should I warm up that email thread and send it out again so we can pick?
I think that you were in that because it was about the people, the organizing committee for the CHAOSS. Do you remember the message?
I don't remember.
Okay, I need to check because I don't know, maybe I dreamt of it, but I think I saw a message where somebody actually had budgeted some staff, like coffee for coffee breaks and cookies and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I made a list, but I didn't have any prices because the...
Okay, then maybe it was the message then.
Yeah, it was an email. It's an email that I did send out to the organizing committee.
Okay,
So
maybe we can start from there and try to have a budget based on it.
Okay.
And if you can refresh it, that would be great. Otherwise, I can also look for it and answer to it.
Yep, I'll send that email out again. I'll send a new email.
Okay, great. Because I think it's one of the few things that are still missing.
Okay, perfect. Will do.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Anything else on anyone's mind? Chaos related, metrics related, community health related. Any interesting news?
I don't think so from my side.
I have no interesting news.
All right. Well then, thank you everyone. I'm gonna stay on just in case someone else joins or anything interesting comes to mind, but feel free to leave if you want. There's no reason to stick around if there's nothing to talk about.
Okay. Thank you, Georg, and thank you everybody.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice talking to you guys.
Yeah, good talking to everybody.
Good to see you all again.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Looks like everyone left, so I'm gonna stop the recording and